Welcome back, everybody. Well, it is that time of year when there's coloured lights everywhere you see. People are just generally in a better mood, or in some cases in a worse mood than they normally are. And for the most part, the messaging around what's happening at this time of year is snow, winter, curling up by the fire, wearing cozy knitwear, and for us frag heads, big, bold, heavy fragrances that can withstand that bitey winter weather. However, there is an entire population of people that live below the equator whose Christmas can look vastly different to what you see on a Christmas card. And you may be wondering, what on earth do people wear for Christmas when it's 37 degrees Celsius and 90% humidity outside on Christmas Day? Well, I'm about to share with you the fragrances that I intend on wearing over Christmas this year. So I have 10 fragrances here. My approach to picking fragrances that suit Christmas in summertime is that I think about the types of things we eat. So even though we're based in the Southern Hemisphere, we do still tend to have an element of the traditional Christmas fare incorporated into our meals at Christmas time. So a lot of families still do things like the glazed ham and the roast lunch. And we also have some really hefty desserts as well, albeit we consume them in much smaller portions than we might otherwise do if we were living in cooler weather. But we also tend to incorporate things that are a bit lighter, like lots of salads, seafood, fruits, really tropical fleshy fruits like mangoes and peaches and pineapple. So it's a bit of a mishmash when it comes to the things that we eat, but we do still incorporate spices and things like that into the meals, so they still get that Christmassy vibe to them. And notwithstanding, for the most part, people who live in this kind of climate tend to also have air conditioning. But I will say that I have experienced many a Christmas day sitting there on a plastic chair on someone's patio, sweating and just trying to get through the meal without melting, basically. So I've tried to choose fragrances that cut across the whole gamut of those types of food categories. And I think I've done okay. I don't yet know what my actual Christmas Day scent is going to be. I do have a bottle of perfume that is wrapped up under the tree, and I know what it is. So there is a good chance I may choose to wear that, but that is not amongst this list here today. So the first one I would recommend for a great summery Christmas scent is Gabrielle Essence by Chanel. This is a very elegant solar type of fragrance. It has that almost that beachy, summery holiday feel, but it feels a little bit more formal. So if you're going to a more formal lunch for Christmas, this might be a really nice one to wear. I much prefer this over the original Gabrielle. That one did not agree with me at all. In fact, I would go so far as to say as I kind of disliked that one. It was really sharp and a bit sour on my skin. This one doesn't do that at all. It's much more full-bodied. The citrus is toned down. So in here you've got a really voluptuous ylang-ylang. There's jasmine and tuberose and orange blossom, so all the white florals and the ylang-ylang in there as well. I feel like I get still a hint of orris in here, even though it's not listed necessarily as a note, but it's kind of in the Chanel DNA. So I definitely feel like there's a little bit of iris in here. And yeah, it just really smells like a very bougie summer. So highly recommend this one. The next one is also a white floral dominant fragrance. This is Gardens of India by Parle de Parfums. This one is quite different to the Gabrielle Essence though. It's a lot more relaxed. It's a little bit sweeter, I think, but it's also a lot more diffusive and airy. There is predominantly jasmine and tuberose in here, but I think there might also be orange blossom as well. This one feels a lot more sparkly. It feels a little bit effervescent almost. So when I wear this, I feel really fresh and clean. I feel really pretty and very feminine, but I can also picture myself wearing a cute linen dress at Christmas lunch, sipping champagne whilst wearing this, you know. That's the sort of vibe that it fits for me. It's also a really nice one to wear out to a casual breakfast or brunch if you're going to have breakfast by the beach or something like that. So something that my friends and I used to do a lot was we'd have breakfast at the beach with friends on Christmas morning, and then we'd all separate and go to our respective family commitments. So that's just what we do. Next up is another one that's in the really sort of fresh category, I guess, and this is Delina La Rosée. Now, this one, the image that I get with this one is for someone who doesn't live near the beach. This one, I imagine somebody wearing this on a hot Christmas day in I guess a hillside garden setting. So there might be a beautiful botanic garden or something, or a garden with lots of flowers growing in it. You might be sitting at the table under the shade of a tree and there's a beautiful breeze blowing through the valley, cooling you all down. This is the type of fragrance that I think would suit that kind of Christmas lunch perfectly. This is probably the one in the list that I would consider to be the least Christmassy from my perspective, and that's purely because I don't live in that environment, and B, although it has a watery rose that's very fresh and there's a slight hint of greenness in there as well, it's very juicy. It is the one that's least likely to resonate for Christmas for me because I don't really associate roses with Christmas, and there's nothing that links in with food that we eat for this one. Next up is one that I really, really love, and I had kind of let it slip by the wayside. I'd sort of put it away and I'd forgotten about it for a while, and I've recently extracted it from my perfume drawer, and I'm so happy that I did because I really, really like this one. This is Zen by Shiseido. This is my going for a walk up Mount Cootha Christmas morning fragrance. So if Matt and I are spending Christmas by ourselves, which doesn't happen very often, but sometimes we choose not to travel for Christmas Day, we often will take ourselves for a walk up a place called Mount Cootha, which is it's called Mount Cootha, but it's not really a mountain, I don't think. Or maybe it is, who knows. And it's just all bushland. It's really, really lovely. This one is a really sort of spicy, woody citrus scent to me. And it also has a bit of a pine note in it as well. So it just has that really fresh, crisp, clean air kind of feel to it without being too sharp. And I do like it for having that sort of slight hint of pininess in there. There's lots of sort of airy, watery florals in here, like lotus and freesia, I think. But there's also notes of like red apple and incense and patchouli and stuff like that. So I still get a bit of a Christmassy vibe to it. But I think the feeling of Christmas for this comes because again, I've been wearing it when we go for a Christmas morning walk. But also, there's Poppy, can you hear her? Click, 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 click. But also because for me, Christmas is associated with summer, and I tend to wear this a lot in the summertime. So the next one is Sunset Hour by Goldfield and Banks. I have talked about this a little bit already this year. The opening is quite sweet, and it reminds me of a fruit cocktail, which is interesting because it's not normally the type of scent profile that I would typically go for. Wow, I'm really overexposed. Sorry guys, hang on. This also has quite a lot of woodiness to it, and there is an aromatic thread in this fragrance that is subtle, but for me, it's prominent enough that it just changes this fragrance from, you know, a sweet, fruity floral to being something much more interesting. It's also a bit peppery, and it has that beautiful spicy benzoin in the base. So, which I actually get pretty much from the opening to the end. So I think it makes a really great summery Christmas Day scent, or just a great summery scent altogether. Although I will say that that opening is very sweet, and sometimes that sweetness can, for me, be a little bit too much if it's really, really, really hot. But if you're sitting in air conditioning on Christmas Day, I think this will work just fine. That is Sunset Hour by Goldfield and Banks. Next up is one that I've had for a long time, but I keep forgetting to wear it. So, and possibly it's because it's such a tiny little bottle. But if you've seen any of my perfume rotation videos this year, you will have seen this crop up a couple of times. This is Twilly by Hermes. And I think this works really well for Christmas in summertime because you've got that really bright, heated ginger note in the top. So it's really spicy. And that gingeriness really reminds me of Christmas. You know, ginger is a spice, or is ginger a spice? It is, right? Well, I'm going to say it's a spice, but ginger is a spice that we use a lot in our cooking. So for that reason, this does give me Christmas vibes. It also has a bit of an amberiness to it, which I associate with Christmassy type smells, especially in combination with that ginger. But it also is predominantly a white floral fragrance, which is perfect for summer, right? It's spicy and a hint ambery, but it's also got that white floral vibe to it, and it's very light wearing. So it's not super overpowering. I really, really enjoy this one. The only thing I'll say is that that beautiful, spicy, gingery opening is very fleeting on me, and it sort of becomes more generic, ambery, white floral fragrance. But I do love that ginger opening. So the next one is one that I've only recently discovered in my sampling, and I'm really liking it, and I really wish that I didn't like it as much as I like it. But this is Joyeuse Tubereuse by Guerlain. This is a really interesting tuberose fragrance to me, or I think it's interesting anyway. This smells really fresh and really green. If you don't like green fragrances, you probably won't like this one. It doesn't smell like grass. What it smells like is you have just plucked the tuberose flower off the stem. So you get that really crisp, almost bitey, sort of green, sappy tone to it. But then you've also got the tuberose, which is a little bit more earthy. You can almost smell, you can smell the petals. That, you know how fresh flowers, when you bury your nose in the petals, they're velvety and dewy, and they all have this sort of almost greenness to them. And then couple that with the actual tuberose scent. It's not super creamy, it's not indolic at all, and I would say this, at least in the opening, leans more green than it does floral. I think it definitely becomes more floral in the dry down, but it always sort of stays really fresh. You do get a slight creaminess coming in from the tuberose later on in the dry down, but it's never heavy. It's always got this sort of lightness to it, this almost transparency to it. It's beautiful. I really, really rate this, and I really like it for summer, because some tuberose fragrances, even though I love tuberose, they can still be a bit heavy for the heat, you know. I think this one really cuts through the heat. There's also other florals in here too. I mean, I think there's jasmine. I feel like tuberose is always sort of coupled with jasmine. And then there's also lily in here as well, which I think gives it that more watery, translucent aspect. If you like, or if you don't mind a green element to your fragrance, or at least to the opening, and you struggle with tuberose because you find it just too bold and enveloping, maybe this one might be worth having a go and smelling. I'm really kind of mad that I like it so much, because I really would like to have more of it, but I think these bottles only come in 100 ml now, with the new line having been rolled out, and they're quite pricey. So, all right, so the last two are from the same house. The first one is Melodie de l'amour by Dusita Parfums, or Parfums Dusita. I mean, I don't know why I'm showing you this, you can't see it. My last little sample of this, and then I'm out. I thought I had actually run out completely, and then I found this rolling around in my sample drawer downstairs, so I snatched it up. I love this fragrance. This is another white floral fragrance. I purely want to wear this because this is a really lovely vintagey kind of white floral, and it's very opulent. So to me, if we were doing something on Christmas Eve and it was hot and we were outside or we were dressed up, this is the type of fragrance I would like to wear. It's just got a really gorgeous earthy white floral bent to it with that sort of vintage amberiness as well. It's a little bit dusty, but not cloyingly so. I just love this fragrance. Possibly it's not the most Christmassy on this list, so maybe this and the Delina Rosée for me are probably the least Christmassy type of feel fragrances for me, but definitely I'm taking this to Sydney with me when we go, because I think we are doing something Christmas Eve with family. I don't think we're going out anywhere special, but we are all getting together on Christmas Eve, so I will be wearing this one for that event. And then the last one is also from Dusita Parfums. This is a little travel size that I have. I really like these Dusita travel canisters. I mean, they're a very standard type of canister, but I don't know, I just like the gold writing on it, I guess. Now this is Moonlight in Chiang Mai. This makes me think of Vietnam. It makes me think of the tropics. It makes me think of walking through a fruit market in the daytime when they're chopping up pineapple and they're cooking things over fires, and you've got the fruit syrup mixing with the smokiness of the fires. It's not actually that smoky, but you do sort of get this bit of a woody element that is not burnt, but it's like cooking wood. It's like if you were to cook a piece of wood without burning it. I don't know. It's so gorgeous. I really, really love this. And the reason I think of this as a great sort of Christmas time scent is because it captures all of the elements of a southern Christmas because of all the fruit smells and the woods, and it just smells very outdoorsy. You know, you're in an open air market somewhere, and there's tropical flowers and there's fruit and there's woods burning and people cooking and using spices. That's what this is for me. I would probably wear this if we were going out in the afternoon, if we went for a walk or if we went to the beach to meet up with friends and have a cocktail somewhere. I don't know. I think this would be a good one for that kind of scenario. And I just realized I counted wrong again. The Dusita ones were not the last ones on the list. There is still one more. I had it sitting aside because this goes into a special category, because I feel like this is possibly the most Christmassy fragrance in my perfume wardrobe that works for us here in the Southern Hemisphere. What do you think it is? This is L'air du Desert Marocain by Andy Tower. This is so, so good. It is a powerful fragrance. At least it opens very big. I think it settles into a beautiful, spicy, dry, ambery vanilla. So I think it actually gets quite, not super sweet, but there's a beautiful, soft sweetness to this in the dry down. The opening is very big, very diffusive, very dry, a little bit scratchy even, quite woody and quite incensey. Very peppery as well. And there's lots of ease in that sentence. So a lot of people may disagree with this option because they might think it's too much for a Christmas lunch or a hot day. I tell you, I fell in love with this fragrance when we wore it on a hot day. Prior to that, I had tried it many times and I didn't hate it, but I was thinking, I don't get what the fuss is about. And then I wore it on a hot day. We were walking in the bush, and I was wearing Au Cœur du Desert and Matt was wearing this one, and together we just smelled amazing. And there were bike riders coming down the mountain behind us and going, "One of you smells really great," and we're like, "It's both of us." So what can I say? Like this to me, this sings in the hot weather. It's just, I know it's an amber, I know it's really big, I know it's quite blasty in terms of that spice in the opening, but man, it really performs really well in the heat. And I think it was actually, I mean, it's meant to be reminiscent of the desert, right? So deserts are hot. And I think it's the dryness in this amber that actually makes this so wearable on a hot day. It's not boozy though, so it doesn't have that boozy element that everyone sort of associates with Christmas ambery scents, but personally I think this is great. There's lots of spices, and I feel like I really get that Moroccan market, spice market feel, which is the types of spices that we like to cook with. So there you go. So that is my probably number one most Christmassy scent for a summer Christmas day. Man, that was a mouthful. That's it. That's the end of the list. So let me know if you are familiar with any of these fragrances and whether or not you would pick them for a hot Christmas day. And if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, or if you have spent a Christmas in the Southern Hemisphere, I would love to hear what you chose to wear. I feel like I'm about to lose my voice, so I'm going to leave it there. I hope you are all having a very safe and happy Christmas period. I don't know exactly when this video is going to go up, but I'm hoping it'll be at least before Christmas. So I guess that means it has to be next week or next weekend. And I'll probably will jump on some platform at some stage as a live stream, just very quickly to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and let you know what I ultimately chose to wear. But otherwise, yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Santa's little helpers. We're Santa's little helpers. We make the wheels go round. Day and night, night and day, here in Christmas Town. We're Santa's little helpers, and it's us you wanna know. If you want a date under the mistletoe.